okay with me
Okay,
at least.
perfect. Sick. Yeah, then it's very nice to meet you. My name is Nikki. That's my name and my tag, so you can just call me Nikki. What would you
Cool.
like to go by? Your name, your tag, or something else?
It's actually all the same for me as well. So
Okay.
Thor is both my real name and my tag.
All right, cool. Nice to meet you, Thor. And yeah, I'm looking forward to doing this lesson with you.
No, likewise.
You might already see that I'm sharing my screen. If you've
Hmm.
seen any of my lesson VODs, you will have seen these player documents
Yeah.
before. They're just there so that, like, as we talk about things, I try to write things down for both of us so that you don't have to focus on, listening and understanding and also taking your own notes. You can take your own notes. You can also write in this document. I'll send you the link to it
Hmm.
in a second. But yeah, that's mostly what this is for. Necessary for you to look at while we're doing the lesson, but it can help.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure. I actually do just I like the idea a lot as well.
nice.
I've both been coach and also done coaching in some other games before, and the idea of having like a personalized document is pretty cool.
Nice. Yeah, I agree, and it's been proven to be really helpful in the short and long term. So yeah, hopefully we can get a lot out of it. Uh, great. So first of all, you should know that if there's ever any questions that come up on the spot, or if you feel like I'm saying stuff you already know, or if you want me to repeat something, you can always interrupt me. Just let me know,
Sure.
and we can make sure that we're you know making the best out of this time for you.
Yeah, yeah. That's good.
Also, what are you hoping to get out of melee coaching, or specifically this lesson?
Um, I think okay, so I mean I guess like maybe just to give like a short background of like how long I've been playing, I feel like that's gonna tie pretty effectively into this. Um, so I've started playing Melee basically 2 years-ish ago. That's when I started. Played for like a year pretty consistently. Applied like learning practices that I've learned from playing other games. Ended up being PR'd in that year, like at the
Mm-hmm.
very bottom of a PR. Danish PR, so it's not like, it's not, not the craziest thing in the world, but that was like me grinding at my maximum. And then the last year, basically, I've been focusing almost entirely on life, like moving, starting to work out a lot, just studying lots of life stuff's been happening. And I've just only recently really began sinking my teeth back into melee on like a serious level, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think for me, the biggest thing I get out of coaching in melee specifically is probably like a shortcut of experience, um, and the immense amount of unique aspects to melee that can't just be learned entirely on your own.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so for like a small reference, I used to play Brawlhalla like professionally for like a couple years when I was 15, 16,
Okay,
and
cool.
traveled around Europe and went to DreamHacks and all that good stuff. Um, and since then, I've kind of been jumping between games, very ADHD-like. Um, I've won a Valorant tournament. I've won a bunch of Brawlhalla tournaments back then, but
Hell
since
yeah.
then, like just like went from like game to game, especially like new games to come out. Love to like basically try to speed run to like whatever's the top rank or whatever's like on the leaderboards or whatever, right? But I've found more recently that I think a lot of that is not necessarily a waste of a time, but it's not the best way for me to spend my time. And Melee has kind of become this project for me where it's a game I feel like I can come back to, and it doesn't have to be this like fervent pursuit of I'm on this leaderboard. Like I gotta get there before the reset, or I gotta get there before I stop wanting to play the game. Melee is
Mm-hmm.
kind of my like, oh, I have this period where I have to study a lot, or this period where something else is more important in my life. That's okay because Melee is always going to be there, and I can kind of come back to it. And even if some of the tech skills are rusty, it doesn't mean that like, the game doesn't matter to me anymore. It's just like a very new but very fun feeling for me, I feel like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a very big fan of everything you've just said. I very much sympathize with that feeling of like Melee will always be there, even when you have to focus on other stuff for a while. Because a game that's lasted this well for 20 years, you just know that like another year isn't gonna make the biggest difference. So
Yeah.
if you miss out on a few weeks or months, like that's no big deal. You can always just come back to it, which is great. Um, Okay, great. Yeah, I think the experience thing you mentioned is huge in this game because when we have a game that is this old, where people have been playing for so long, it can help a ton to just have a few people who have gone through a lot of the issues that you might be about to
Yeah.
face already, who can then like make sure that you don't have to experience them for half a year, then slowly notice them over time and then fix them for another half year. But instead we can
Yeah.
just preempt that.
Yeah, that's been my experience as well. I do happen to have a local scene, but it's like actually it's been getting more active. We've been getting like a real scene kind of going, but for a long time it was just me, King Funk, and Mo showing up to the local and me getting beat up viciously for like 2 hours.
Yeah, that sounds tough.
Yeah, yeah. Starting out especially was a little rough, but it's been a really. I think it's actually helped me a lot with just getting like complete ego death from the like very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Even though it's still tough because I don't know, like I've had this experience now with a lot of games where it's like I start playing it and then like a month or two goes by and I'm like ideally like top three at least in my country at the game. Ideally also like competitive on like a pro level, like at the very least in Europe, right? And then I start playing Melee and it's like you've been playing for a year and you still feel like a fucking baby and it's so crazy to me. It's like you go to like I went to Fed 2 and Fed 3. Went to Fed 2. I'd been playing for like, like I think at that point 6 or 7 months or something. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna fucking smash it, right? Then you lose to like some random Samus that just lives in like a village in the middle of the UK that's been playing for 8 years, and it's like, well, okay, that's just levels to this game, Like,
Yeah, unfortunately that's like a canon event as a Fox player. You just cannot skip
mm,
that as a Fox player in Europe. You just have to go to a UK major and just lose to some random Samus from the UK and just be like, well,
it's rough out here,
that
man.
happens. Yeah. Okay, cool. One of the things you mentioned when we talked on Discord is that you might want to just have me look over your gameplay and like give you like some immediate reactions, right?
Mm, yeah.
Yeah. I think the way you said it was that you wanted to hear some like immediate reactions from me when playing. Did you mean that you want us to play each other, or would you rather us together look at your gameplay against someone else?
Um, Either works. I think if what we're gonna do it, I don't know how much time because I watched you sent me a video where I think you went over it with what's his name, Turtle or something.
Yes.
The one where you went over like similar to this with like the document and also going over some bot analysis later. I think if we're gonna do that later as well, then probably just playing you and seeing what that feels like for you would be insightful for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of my biggest issues, not issues currently, but like one of the issues with my circumstance currently in Denmark is that while we do have some pretty skilled players, they're not extremely active, and the ones that are not necessarily the most like analytical or like actively thoughtful during games. So I'll play like a session with someone, I'll feel like I'm getting better. But then when we get to like after the games and I'm asking questions, they're like, I don't know, I was just kind of pressing buttons.
Mm.
Um, and that makes it I do genuinely enjoy having people that I can play with that when we can like, kind of like go back and forth and we can discuss like what happened during the game. But I'm having like issues just with like the amount of players I have access to that I can actually do that with.
Yeah.
Um, so just hearing your thoughts after playing, I feel like would give me, if nothing else, just like a snapshot of where I am currently,
Mm-hmm.
and an idea of like what immediately jumps out is like this needs to be worked on, or this is way overcooked, and you need to chill on this, for example, like that type of stuff.
Yeah, I see. Okay. That's a good idea. We can do that. Just to touch upon the topic of like having not the best local scene or people around you for that kind of improvement. I
Hmm.
think communities like the Discord server we're in now are very helpful for that because most of the people in here, like a lot of them joined like 3 years ago and haven't been active for 2 years. but a lot of the
Hmm.
people who are in here and who have joined recently are very much looking for similar minded people. Um, you might or might not have seen that I also host a league for all my students where people get matched up in like round robin pools based on like the rough skill levels. And then you have
Hmm.
to play one set a week against people. Like that's something you could join if you're interested the next time I start this up.
That
Um,
sounds fun.
yeah, and I really try to encourage people to not just play your sets right, like type GG and then leave, but I want people to like, in best case scenario, like talk or type a bit between each game and just get it back and forth going because I think that's really helpful for people who are looking for that kind of interactions with the game. Because some people
Mm.
they just learn by just pressing buttons, right? But
Yeah,
I think the best and fastest kind of improvement comes when it's a little bit more like active and more conscious and less subconscious.
yeah,
Um,
I think I would agree.
yeah. So yeah, but I think online communities are the way to go there, and yeah, also playing unranked is great, and then like looking in the SSB EU Discord to see if you find the person you just played, and just
Yeah.
try to see if you can get a chat going with them of like GG's, I liked how you
Mm.
did X and Y. What did you think about me trying to go for this? And then either they'll respond, yeah, I know, and then you can just leave it at that, or you'll get a nice discussion going, and yeah,
Yeah, for
that's how
sure.
I always try and tried to find people who were actually willing to talk about the games I played with them.
Mm.
Cool. Okay. Just very quickly, the matchups you brought up when you booked the session specifically were the Sheik matchup and the Fox Ditto. Um,
Yeah.
could you tell me really quickly just how you feel about them and like expand on how you feel like you're having a difficult time like recognizing the important spots to play in those matchups?
Um, yeah. So I feel like specifically against Sheik, it's also just a matchup that I haven't played a lot. And my idea is that the Sheik matchup is probably mostly that. Whereas Fox and Falco are the matchups I've played by far the most. And they are still kind of like an anomaly to me to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like for Sheik, I think I'm just not familiar enough with the ranges I should be playing, and that makes that matchup difficult for me to gauge in like a solid way. Like a lot of what I've been doing is watching other like analysis and boards or like coaching sessions of people talking about like fuck Sheik specifically, and like even other characters against Sheik and kind of like ways to kind of get through what feels like a very solid defensive character a lot of the time. Um, and so stuff like doing like dash in, dash out, dash in to like bait a forward tilt, bait a some such sort of move out of the Sheik to then, you know, like for example, like dash in, dash back, dash in, shot up down air, for example. If you like, it's like my main go-to bread and butter in the like closer unreactable ranges against Sheik because it just if it doesn't work, then that at least gives me like a foundation of, oh, he's not biting on my initial dash in. Then I can start adjusting my mix-ups. I can kind of play from that. I can start doing like just run in, running shine into grab up smash, stuff like that. But then when I play against a sheet that just loves to sit on side plats and just short hop back air forever and not really like not biting on like dash attacking in on low percent where I can CC it or going for like overreaching dash grabs and just kind of like resource to living on the platforms, I feel like I am extremely lost as to how to approach like a neutral game at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I feel like the better Sheiks I play against, like the better they are, the more they're kind of playing that way. Um, and at that point, I'm just kind of like wondering how I basically construct like a neutral game around that kind of gameplay.
Yeah,
Um,
I see. Um, I think we can talk about this in a very general sense for like five
sure.
to 10 minutes, and then just so that we have talked about it and you can see what you can make, or what you can make out of that by yourself, um,
Yeah, sure.
between today and a potential next lesson. So the way I always like to think of like specific situations that I've noticed are giving me problems is there's two ways to think about it, right? So the first way to think about it is what is my opponent like trying to hit me with, and
Mm,
what is their like highest reward move to hit me with, right? If Sheik's on the
Sure.
ground, like you said, at low percent, they could try to go for dash attacks, or they could try to just go for raw boost grabs. Those would be very high reward options for them to land, depending on percent. Boost grab, always great. Dash attack, great above, very low percent.
Yeah.
So you can try to structure your neutral game around that, of like, okay, how do I avoid these moves? And then the other way of thinking about it is, what moves can I land that will lead to a high reward for me?
Sure. Yeah.
The reason why I think the first way of thinking about it is a little bit better is because when you think about how you land your good moves, you already have to think about that while considering, like if you know that I want to grab Sheik or I want to shine Sheik, you can't just look at how you shine Sheik. You always have to look at it from the perspective of, how do I shine or grab her without also getting grabbed myself, right? Because you could run up and raw grab, but Sheik's just going to walk forward, wave dash back for all eternity until your grab misses, and then she grabs you, right?
Yeah.
So when we're looking for our own good openers, we always want to look for them in the context of what our opponent is looking for. The same concept applies the other way around, right? If we're trying to avoid Sheik's boost grab or her dash attack, we want to avoid them in ways where we don't just punish them by like running away to the other side of Dreamland and shooting one laser, right? We want to punish them in ways that still lead to a high reward option for us. So both of these like thought processes overlap, but I think starting with, what is my opponent actually threatening to hit me with here, and how can I like play around that option and either get a medium reward hit on them or risk something and get a really high reward hit on them if I guess correctly, right?
Right.
So you were talking about Sheik being on a side platform, right?
Yeah. Doing like either run-off needles, shield drop needles, or just shield drop back as, and then retreating to either like towards the corner or going back to side plats afterwards. Like those
Yeah.
are especially the options that I struggle with like interacting with, I guess.
I see. Are you on a setup right now where we could connect to each other and just hop on the stage?
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Then I think we should do that because it always helps visualize the stuff we're talking about, and then makes it a bit more engaging, interactive.
So it's gonna turn down the melee a little bit.
Yeah, me too. My code is Nikki1.
Perfect. My code is Nair 400. Let's see.
Sorry, what is it? Nair?
Yeah, it's in Newfoundland.
Nice. Okay, so let's just hop on Battlefield, easiest example. So when you are imagining this situation and imagining it happening to you, which should be, it's something that's been on your mind, right? So you probably can like see it in front of you or think of it. Is it something that tends to happen at any percent? Is it something that mostly happens at like when you're both at super low percent? Have you noticed a pattern there, or is it just like it feels like it's always happening independent of percent?
I think especially when I am at low percent and the Sheik doesn't want to overextend and get CC'd, that's when they like especially resort to it. But I've also played games that feels like Sheik wants to do it at essentially all percents, and just doesn't really like interacting on the ground much.
Yeah. So what is Sheik trying to hit you with when she's doing when she's moving around right here?
I think in terms of like high reward options, I think run off needle grab is like the thing that hurts the heart, like that gives the most reward to Sheik, right? At least from what I've like experienced. And that or shield drop needle grab, I guess, which is like if I dash two with like fine under the plant. And then for like keep away, just like shield drop back out to like get percent and get me out of crouch cancel is also something that I've gotten hit by lots.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Those are that's a good summary. She can play in a way where she's like still looking for a grab kinda. But for that she usually either has to do like aerial into grab, right? Usually it's gonna be forward air, because forward air from side platform like this auto cancels, and then she can sometimes hit you when it catches you off guard and then grab right away, right? Like you could see here that she could do this fair fast fall, and then instantly grab. So if you
Yeah.
sometimes try to CC, or if you hold in while you're getting forward at low percent, that can combo. Or it's like you said, like these needle shenanigans of like
Yeah.
wave dash off needle, run off needle. Yeah. Well, of course, anything Sheik does here, she has to come down in some way, right? If you just never go above short hop height, she's not gonna hit you with anything meaningful if she stays up here. She might hit you with like a few needles like this if you play in the middle range. But the only way she gets like a high value opening that does more than just like, 2 needles of worth of percent is if she
It's
falls
coming down
here.
the platform, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's one thing we can play with. And we can also play the situation in more of like a movement-based way, where we're not really trying to look at like, okay, what move is Sheik trying to do and what move do we want to use to beat it, but more like where roughly is Sheik going to be and how can we attack into these spots without like eating a hitbox on our way there. So Sheik can come down from the platform like this, right? And like forward her into center stage. She can also come down in place like this by just dropping through and attack like this. She can also run away, right? Or wave dash back and then shield drop. Or dash dance, shield drop, and then forward like this. So there are a lot of different spots she can attack in. And a lot of them feel very similar, but there's a big difference in how close you can get and how you might be able to punish them. Because something like a backer like this, right, where we're just playing in this range, and then I do this as Sheik, this is very hard to punish because you have to get so deep like under Sheik and then also be ready to like hold down or get super close and shield this to punish it, that it's really difficult to actually like get a hit there. But if you just like move around somewhat close to Sheik and then she comes down like right here, right? Now she either has to get back up, which is scary, or she has to play out of the corner and go back to ledge, maybe roll in. So we can kind of force the situation to change without actually having to commit to any attack. Similar thing can happen if we just, like, if she goes up here and we think she's going to attack into center stage, we can, like, cross her up and just go right under her. Like, right as she comes down and you like go there.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, that's a read you can make where you don't have to press any buttons other than, if you're on a box, your dash buttons. I don't know. Are you on a rectangle or are you a gameplay?
I'm on a gameplay.
Okay, cool. So those are ways of playing it, and that's just like on the horizontal plane, right? You can also play it vertically, where you just like get kind of close, and then you can like full hop back air, like right at this range, where you only hit Sheik if she tries to run off, but if she doesn't run off, then you both just kind of miss each other, right? Like if I play like this, right? We just both miss, but if I try to run off, then I run into your aerial. And sure, they can do something like shield right here, and then maybe like punish you coming down. But those are like a lot of ways you can play the situation that are more like reliant on positioning your move correctly and positioning your character properly, rather than choosing the right move for the situation.
That makes sense.
In some situations that are more limited, like Marth just like did a normal get up off the ledge and is probably gonna hold shield or roll in after, right? Because Marth doesn't want to be stuck on ledge. It's a much more limited situation because the only things Marth can realistically do is a defensive option like jump or roll in. He can attack and just like normal get up, like forward smash or something, or dash attack.
I was thinking forward smash, I feel like that.
Or they can just like go back to ledge, right? Like there aren't that many scary options Marth has that you can punish you with, but Sheik on this platform, like if you're right there where you are right now, by the time you could hit Sheik where she is right now, if Sheik decides to move at the same time, she can go above you, under you, like through you, away, to ledge, right? There's so many places she can go, and that she can position her aerials that we can play the situation without having to commit to something hard, because we don't really have like a hard specific cue from the Sheik that tells us what to do yet.
Right.
Of course, there are some like generally good options. Like if you're at 0%, you can very often just like try to run right under Sheik and just hold down on the way there, right? Like just you start from here, you do a dash forward, and then right after starting the dash forward, you already just hold down. So that Fox finishes the dash, but while he's still like finishing the dash, you already get ASDI down.
Yeah.
That's a good one, right? And then from there, you just have to be quick when it comes to doing stuff like CC, dash forward, grab. But even then, like, if Sheik does like a good auto cancel forward air, she can usually just spot dodge before your grab hits her. So we don't want to push too hard in that spot. We just kind of want to move around Sheik and try to make her
like elicit that reaction basically, right?
Yeah, like make it so that she doesn't necessarily commit to something herself, right? She's not gonna like come down and just miss a grab or a forward tilt, but maybe she's gonna feel forced to like shield drop right here instead of coming down like this, right? And when Sheik just came down right here and you're somewhat close to her, now you don't really have to worry about wave dash back anymore because it's just gonna put her to ledge where she doesn't want to be. So
maybe he's like boxing her out towards the corner, right?
exactly.
And then I feel like Sheiks roll in so fucking much when they are like around ledge that maybe just like looking for that type of option, right? Like dash dancing here, maybe it's like down air, like any kind of like roll in. That makes sense.
Exactly. And this, when you get Sheik to come to the ground, the same ideas that we talked about earlier still apply. Of like, what are the actually threatening moves she can hit me with, right? If you're like right on top of me, then sure, she can just grab or F tilt you. But if you're like a little bit out of range of forward tilt, then she either has to wave dash forward and forward tilt, or she has to like run up and grab, and either boost grab or just dash jump grab or running grab. And that makes a big difference because if you're just standing right there and I miss a forward tilt, suddenly I feel scared and then I do F tilt into roll in or F tilt into another F tilt because I feel so afraid. And it's still Sheik, like it's still the character that they like designed last second because they realized Zelda was bad and they wanted to give her something more. So they just gave Sheik like the most generic moves and forgot to give her any landing lag on them. But still, that is how you can play it. It's like you don't actually have to commit that hard against Sheik. You can always move away if you want to, because the only way you're moving away gets punished if Sheik slowly takes space, which isn't that bad for you, or if they read your movement away and like grab behind you, which is also fine. But you can just kind of move towards and around Sheik in a lot of spots because her defensive options are so good. Her shield is huge, her crouch is very small, her hitboxes on the ground are all very fast, but you don't have to like fight fire with fire. You can just fight Sheik's attacks with your movement.
You think you should just never approach Sheik on the platform? So I've been thinking about doing like, if they really just want to live up there, doing like a nair to side plat and then like shank grab or something. But I feel like a lot of the time that just ends up going badly. Do you think it's worth it ever, or do you think it's just like, just try to box out, don't focus too much on it, do like fade away back airs, like you said, mostly?
So the options I most like to use is that if I feel like the Sheik is super like keen on just living here, then I'll just play like half a like 3/4 of the stage away where you are right now. If they go up here, I'll just do like full hop double laser, right? To like shoot 2 lasers at her and then maybe get some damage. Because if you do full hop double laser, even if you start doing that and I run off at the exact time, then we end up with this spot right here where you're just chilling up here after your lasers and I'm down here.
Yeah.
And now you can still like, you can do the same thing she can do. You can run off on the right side and just reset your dash dance, run off on the left side and reset your dash dance. You can dash dance on the platform, at the top plat, whatever, right? There's a lot of things you can do there. But if she goes down, then you can also just like dash dance on the ground, or you can go back on the side platform, because whenever Sheik's on the same horizontal plane as you, she can either throw a full stack of needles, which is the only scary option in this distance that she has, or if you're both on the ground, then she can try to go for like raw boost grabs into the corner to read your movement. So just always being like one level like above Sheik or under her, just never being on the same height as her, can make it pretty simple to play like a keep away game where you sometimes get like 1 or 2 lasers of damage, and then eventually, right, they'll keep doing this forever, and then if you're behind, you eventually have to move forward, or if you're ahead, then sure, you could still look for other hits, which we'll talk about next, but you can also just keep playing like this, and Sheik is way easier to hit when she's trying to hit you. When Sheik is trying to not get hit, right? When Sheik's playing like this and like wave dashing back and playing in place, playing around her shield, playing around your approaches, it's very hard to hit Sheik. But when Sheik's actually trying to hit you out of your movement, now it becomes much easier to hit her, right? If I try to hit your dash dance in the corner and I run forward for a boost grab, suddenly I'm just leaving myself vulnerable for all of this path, right? All of this you can just hit me, and suddenly hitting Sheik becomes much easier. Okay, so that's one option. You just play like more than half a stage away. And you're just like, all right, I don't want to get hit by a full stack of needles. As long as that isn't happening, I'm good. I can sometimes get a laser or two, and that's fine. The other way to play around this is the more offensive way, where you either run under Sheik, like directly under her, and then you have the option of crouching, running under her and up tilting, or running under her and doing short up air. Those are all good options that you can just use like right under Sheik, so that when she drops down, you hit her with it. And then the other option you have is like running up to Sheik, but only as close as you think you can get without getting hit by her like drop down or run off aerial, right? If you think Sheik's gonna come down like this, you can like just run up, wave dash down right outside of that range, right? Because you're running
Yeah.
up, from like here to here, it will make them think that, oh no, Fox is trying to get under me, I have to come down. And then they
Yeah.
miss a forward air like this or a back air like this, and now you can scrap with her, right? Because now
Yeah.
she just landed, she was in a little bit of lag, and now you have the dash forward short up nair. And yes, she also has like rising aerials, but her rising aerials don't combo, whereas yours do. Because Sheik takes
Right.
too long to land after doing a rising aerial. Yeah,
Makes
so
sense.
those are the main options, my opinion, is you play it from far away, where you just play like the horizontal levels of just not being at the same height as her, so she can't hit you with a full stack of needles. Or you run up and just move close to make her come down, or you run up so close that she just cannot come straight down anymore, and she has to read you doing something like that, so that like if I think you're going to run under me, maybe I can run off like this and just take center stage like this way, right? But
Right,
then
sure.
once again, if you just stay far away and Sheik runs off like this and you're just still chilling under the side platform, you're just like, oh, nice to meet you. Now I'm gonna nair you because you just
Yeah,
ran
yeah.
up so
Just
close to
win.
me.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
cool.
Makes sense.
So that's how I would approach this. We always look at what is Sheik actually trying to hit us with. What meaningful thing can she hit us with? This range, it might just be like full stack of needles.
Right.
In this
Yeah.
range, it might be like a forward tilt. In this range, it's going to be not just a forward tilt, but like movement forward into a forward tilt. And depending on that, replace forward tilt with a grab in either of those. Depending on that, we can then choose our own options a little bit more easily. So we kind of like you said that you're comfortable with against Marth. We want to break these situations down, except that Sheik on the side platform isn't like, Marth jumping and missing a forward air, right? Because that's something very specific, very committal that they did. Whereas Sheik just standing up here gives her access to like a million different things. So it's not specific enough for you to have like, it's not like it is a rock and you can just find the paper and beat it. Like
Yeah,
this
we
is
don't
like
a direct punish, basically, right?
yeah. This is like Sheik. When Sheik's up here, she doesn't just have access to rock, she also has rock and paper, right? So you can't always beat her, but you can beat her or like go even, in a lot of spots. So that's how I view a spot like this, where Sheik is limited to some extent, but she isn't so limited that there is a clear, obvious best response for you.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, basically, like if we're keeping on with the metaphor, right? If she has access to rock and paper, you just want to keep throwing paper like a billion times next to her, and then eventually she'll lose, right? Like that's kind of the idea.
Exactly. You can just keep throwing paper, and if you also notice that she's also just throwing paper, then depending on the percent, depending on the read you have on them as a player, it could be worth it to like go with the thing that beats paper, so the scissors.
Yeah.
That Sheik might also have rock in her arsenal in this spot, but once you have like seen a pattern from them and you're reasonably comfortable or confident that they're probably going to go for it again, that's how we become good at melee, is like recognizing what options people like to do from certain situations, how often they like to do each option, and if there's maybe a pattern here that this Sheik player hasn't even recognized, right? Maybe they just go up here, dash dance, and then they always like shield drop back air, right? They never like wave dash off back air or wave dash off needle, right? Maybe they just always like shield drop back air right here, and then that's something we can like try to punish, right? But if there is like a full mix going on where they sometimes do one thing, sometimes the other, right? Sometimes they attack in center stage, sometimes they attack far away from center stage, but you can still just move away from her, play it far, and then get a little bit of damage and like slowly use your movement to make them stop doing what they're doing, or just laser them until your jab KOs them.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, great. So how would you try to summarize that in your own words, or like what do you remember out of what we just talked about when we're on battlefield?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to vary from stage to stage, right? But I do really like the visual image I have in my mind is like almost like a boxing or like a basketball kind of like visual image of like you're not trying to necessarily like score or get like a knockout punch. You're trying to you instead of just trying to win the situation, you're trying to remove Sheik from the situation, right? Like you're trying to push her into a spot where you are able to actually play like very winning match like mix-ups, and you're trying to not like throw the one thing that's just gonna get you like absolutely rocked. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're pushing away with backers, you are and like analyzing the spot, but like okay, does she always do one option? Because then you can start just playing whatever always beats that, right? But if they are playing real mix-ups, um, the like the idea of pushing them to get off the platform by threatening back airs, threatening double laser, um, trying to take stage, trying to punish them from getting out of the corner makes like a lot of sense to me from like a like holistic standpoint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, Very good. I really like how you followed along and how you summarized this. Seems like you have a really good understanding of this, and you're very good at articulating your thoughts and ideas about the game, which is really fun to work with. So that's great. Uh,
Well, thanks.
so now what we could do is we could play a few games and then do the thing we talked about in the beginning. Now that
Sure.
we have like this example of how we could analyze a situation more generally, is there a certain matchup you most want to play? Do you just want to play Fox Dittos or something else? Sheik?
Um, I think probably Fox Dittos.
Okay.
I feel slightly rusty in the matchup, but I think it's still going to be the thing that's the most valuable for me currently.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I played a pretty long, just like random unranked session against what's his name, Manuka, something like that. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if you know that guy,
Yeah.
Fox from the UK. Um, he's really good. And playing him made me realize that I was like, wow, I got so much better so quickly during our games that I feel like playing a good Fox player would probably just accelerate my growth like really quickly.
Yeah.
Um, so that would be like, I think, the best matchup for us to play. If
Okay, good.
that makes sense.
Then let's do that. If anything happens that you want to talk about, sorry, I still
Hmm.
had Sheik locked in
Oh
from
yeah,
previous one. If anything happens that you want to talk about, feel free to just pause and we can talk about it.
sure.
I will do the same if I feel like I'm seeing something or I saw something that just happened and I want us to recap it.
Mm.
But it might, we might just play one or two games where we, just play unless something really obvious comes up really early.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
I'll just close Discord screen share real quick because
Oh,
that
sure.
might be okay. All right. So I think the first thing we could talk about, like as a topic for this, is the way I view this matchup and how it's usually played at higher levels is that both foxes are trying to stay as mobile as possible because by being
Mm,
mobile is how you keep access to your best combo starters, right? The cleaner your
right.
opening, the easier your combo routes will be, right? If I
Mm,
grab you right here like this at 0%, I have a very easy like 30% I can get, right? I can like
yeah.
up throw chain grab like twice, and then I can either go for a platform tech chase, I go for a back throw to like DI mix up you and go for another tech chase, or I just up throw up smash and like, I've got my 30-40%, that's very easy.
Yeah.
However, like if I'm playing from here and you grab me right here, then like it's difficult for you to follow up on this because I can just hold in. You can't really throw me off stage yet. If I go to the platform, the tech chase on the platform, like there isn't a way you can play it where you can cover everything at such low percent, because
Mm,
there just isn't enough time between the throw and when I land on the platform because I land on the platform so quickly that it makes it a lot harder for you to like get the openings like that. So
yeah, I have to choose between like I think if you time the up, you can cover like mistake, tech, and roll to the left, right, but like that's like the most you can cover, and then you can just roll out if you think I'm covering like the most options, I'd
yeah,
imagine.
the simplest way of playing that situation when you do get the grab and the up throw is that you either wait and then you react to no tech rolls, right? Like that's the stuff where
Yeah.
you can just wait under, and then if you see me miss the tech, you up air. If you see me tech
Mm,
roll, you wait for the tech roll to almost finish and then up air, and then of
mm,
course you've given up on covering tech in place. Or you do the instant up air, which covers no tech and tech in place, but doesn't give you enough time to also cover the tech rolls after. Sometimes you can
right.
shine me after, which doesn't do much. It just pushes me back towards center stage because I can just slide off on the shine and then I just
Yeah.
land here without being knocked down. But usually it's like a 50-50 of covering either the miss tech and tech in place or like tech roll options. But more generally, what I think is happening in our games is that when we end up in a situation where it's more or less uncertain what's going to happen, you are more likely to just commit to an attack, whereas I'm a bit
Mm,
more likely to just get back to my movement, right?
right.
Let's say we just like nair into each other, we get out of like a trade, and we both land in this range. What I'll just do is I'll just do like a decently long dash away and then come back in. Because by the time I've done the
Mm,
dash away, I already know I'm going to dash away and then come back in. And by the time I'm doing that, either you've committed to something, which I can then just like try to true punish, or you've committed to something where I can't true punish it, but I know that you will be in lag for long enough that now, if we were to both try to narrate it at each other, because you're still in 2 frames of lag, my nair is probably going
yeah.
to come out first, so now I have a small advantage.
Right.
This goes
That
hand in
makes sense.
hand with general move selection depending on percent. There have been a few spots where I was just like playing it slow out of the corner at a percent like
Mm,
this, and then you would turn your back and start jumping, where I'm just like,
mm,
okay, great, right? I just run forward and hold down because as soon as you go into the
mm,
air, um, it's very difficult for you to hit a good drill while jumping in place and facing away from me. And the only
yeah.
thing you can really hit me with is back air, which I just hold down and grab you for it. And now I
Yeah.
have my good grab right here, where I might have to go for the platform take chase, but I got my grab.
Yeah.
And those it's a very obvious thing, but it's difficult to apply in practice. So I'm going to try to point out situations in which you went for attacks that just weren't really suitable for the situation.
Hmm.
More specifically, when you have an opponent at low percent and you're trying to keep them out of the corner, using your dash is really important because what you can do, right? Like the thing that or a lot of people are expecting is like I could try to like short hop nair forward, right? Like this. Which your full
Yeah.
hop back air, that would beat that, right? But it wouldn't really beat it in a really meaningful way, and it risks just getting CC owned by
Mm,
the opponent. But instead, what you can do is you can just try to like stand here to bait, like pretend like you're going to full hop, and then dash away and come back in, and then just dash and grab it. Or you can bait it by positioning right here, moving away, and then like dash away, wave dash back in, up tilt in that spot.
mm,
Right? So in order to get your good openers, you have to play it in a little bit more grounded way, where you keep access to grab, short hop drill, and up tilt most importantly.
makes
All right,
sense.
great. Then yeah, let's just play this game, and I'll try to point out when this is happening. All right, let's go. Okay, how are you feeling?
I
Is there
feel like I'm thinking a
something,
lot.
yeah, is there something you're noticing or you're thinking about as we're playing?
I feel like the more I dash dance and the less I jump, the better I'm doing.
Yes, that's something I noticed as well. Like right after we talked about it,
Yeah.
it's strange how a lot of foxes, when they feel a little bit threatened, it's very easy to just try to go for a short hop nair or like try to go for a full hop and then do something coming back down, which is good, which works a lot. But when it works, the reward is decent at best. But if the
Mm,
dash away works out, the reward can be so good. It can just lead to like a clean grab or a clean like drill up till at 30% and then into a free next aerial, right?
yeah.
That's something that I noticed in the last game we just played. There are a few situations where either I was cornered and I would play it super slowly and just like use my dashes and wave dashes to get out of the corner while still always having access to my moves like up tilt and down tilt because you're at like 50% where down tilt is pretty good.
Yeah.
Or I had you cornered, and I would just like, get to a range where you could maybe barely short up near me, but then move
Mm,
away from it again and then come back in with a hitbox that would punish it like
right.
with very high reward. And that's, yeah, if you ever watch Sunsei play, especially at
Yeah.
like last stock situations, everyone is like panicking, jumping like crazy. And Sunsei is just like, all right, I'm just gonna keep dash dancing. Sure, you can hit me out of this, but like Fox
Mm,
is so fast and can be in so many different places within like if I'm here like within half a second I could be here or I could be here, right? Like I,
mm,
I could pretty much be anywhere and you have to pin down exactly where I will be in order to hit me. But if you don't know that exactly, then I can just chill. And if you try to pin me down and you miss, now I have like an easy opening or just a small advantage I can use. All right.
yeah.
Cool. All right, I feel like you're already a lot harder to hit. Of course, it's a bit more difficult to play like a good dash dance game on Fountain of Dreams, especially when the side platforms are as low as they were just now, because it just
Yeah.
very much limits like all your short hop options out of your dash dance. But still, I feel like you're already it's way more difficult to hit you, and you are
Mm,
landing more hits. But just like we said, one part of the matchup is getting cleaner hits, but another important part of the matchup is that when you get unclean hits, you convert of them just a tiny bit better than your opponent does. Just like
right.
one extra dash tech chase they aren't getting can make like a gigantic difference. And of course, when you're playing someone who's a good bit better, then yeah, it's difficult to like catch up because they probably have the better like clean hit punish game, and they're also a little bit better at just converting the small hits a tiny
Yeah,
bit
like
further.
scrapping basically, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Next thing I want to look at after this game is how we play against people when we have respawn invincibility. Just something you can look for like the last two stocks, and we can look at it more in depth.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So when we are respawning and we have invincibility, I think what you're currently doing is that you're trying to like cover my movement like between platforms, and you're trying to cover it with like full hop back air or something like that, right? Which would be decent, right? It would knock me down. It would, maybe put me back on a side platform or knockdown, which is okay. But Fox is just too fast, and like we said, can be at too many places like almost simultaneously, right? Within half a second, I could be on the left side of battlefield or on the right side. That what will usually lead to a better outcome is if you try to hard read one place that I might be at. Because right now what I'm doing is that I move to side platforms, but a lot of people will tend to move to the side platform and then just instinctively go from side platform to top platform, or the other way around, which you are covering. But if I just go to the side platform and stay there, then you're just basically back airing into nothing. And in some of these scenarios, while you were doing like your final full hop back air, while you were still invincible while starting it out, I would just drop down from the side platform, and then as you were falling down from the full hop, you were no longer invincible. So I wouldn't really get a punish because you were doing early back airs where you just, auto canceled them and landed without back. But still, it was a somewhat awkward spot. And what we want to focus on is when we are respawning, like what you can do is if you think I'm going to be on a side platform, just wave land on it and grab or up tilt, right? Or just run under it, or just do like a full hop landing up air onto the side platform.
Right, makes sense.
Or, because the main things people will do is either go to side platform, go to top platform, or dash dance in the corner, or dash dance and try to run through you. Running through isn't quite as good in the Fox Ditto because Fox, of course, has his short up drill, which covers the space in front of him for a very long time with a very high reward. Against characters like, maybe Falco even, or Captain Falcon, running through can be a little bit easier because a Falcon tries to knee you in the corner, and at that exact moment you run forward and try to run through them. You just trade positions and now you're in center stage. You've basically avoided their invincibility. That's great. But yeah, that's what you want to look for. Like when I'm playing against a Fox and I respawn, I will just try to like randomly guess and be like, I think this Fox is going to like try to run through me. So I'll just fall back down, land, and just do an up tilt in place and hope they run into it, right? Because that's like a high reward option that covers the one thing I think they will do. Or if I think that they will stay in the corner, I'll just like run up and do like a very deep overshoot drill into the corner, or like an overshoot raw grab into the corner. And if I think they'll go to side platforms, I'll do like, wave land on up tilt or like full hop landing up air onto the platform. So
I think most importantly, it's also about adapting, right? I think I'm just used to in my brain that people go from side plat to top plat so often in my games that I'm just doing it because it usually works. But then as soon as it's not hitting, then I should just be adapting to like, oh, he's sitting on side plat, I should be wave land up tilting, or he is dash dancing in the corner, I should at least try to find an option that forces him to play more than just like one mix-up that's always winning.
Yeah, exactly. So when you first play the situation against someone new, you can just like randomly guess. But if you randomly guess that they will run through you and you up tilt in place and they go to side platform instead, then you can just be like, all right, next time I just go to side platform and like hard cover the side platform. And if they do something else again, then all right, maybe they have like 5 mix-ups up their sleeve, and I can try to cover like 2 out of those with high reward. Because the great thing is that you usually get 2 mix-ups, right? If I respawn and I just come down and I think you're gonna go to side platform, I can like go up here and try to grab, and then if that misses, I have like one more like run off up tilt. I can still do fully invincibly, or I can like if you stay under me, I can come down, go here, do this, and then come down and like try to scrap in the corner. But I'm still a little bit invincible and you aren't. So you usually get like 1.5 to 2 mix-ups where you can try to hard read the opponent twice. And as long as the second one isn't like charging an up smash all the way, after the
Yeah.
second one you will still be like barely invincible and can just like play normal neutral after. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Then shall we play?
Sure.
Let's do it.
Hmm.
Yeah, on that one forward throw on the left side, it was just that
Hmm.
the last 2 or 3 times I threw you off stage at lower mid percent, I saw you shine stall. So this
Mm.
time I I
Like a read
noticed
of the
that,
shine storm.
recognized,
Yeah.
yeah, and I just jumped out and like read that you were going to shine stall. And if you're shine stalling, you're holding down usually. So if you get shine out of that, it's just over. But that's just something that
Yeah.
can happen. So if you were to
Makes
like
sense.
double jump instant down air right there, then I just get dragged off stage.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
All
I
right.
think at least that game, I felt like I was more comfortable with mixing it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
I feel like especially when you were respawning, you were going for like much more specific reads and not just trying to cover like like a rough area,
yeah,
which is
yeah.
really good. Um, cool. So let's play 2 more, and then I think
Sure.
we can like try to summarize.
That's good.
Okay. Right. When, of course, what happens a lot of the time is when I hit like a stray shine on you from a scrap in center stage, you get grabbed in the corner, right?
Mm,
You use shine stall, and it's a really good option. But against people who are like at a certain level or above that, eventually shine stall becomes a bit of a crutch if you use it every time, of course, with anything in melee.
mm,
Because you tend to drop low and then do something. But a really
right.
good player, there's like a line that you cross off stage, where once you've crossed the line, you can no longer double jump back on with an aerial. So once I
Mm,
see you
okay.
cross that line, or I think you're about to cross that line, I am much more likely to just run off stage and try to like raw shine you, because I know you're not gonna be able to like double jump down air and hit me. And if I try to run
Mm,
off stage or double jump up air me, like I don't have to worry about that anymore because you're so low. And the same thing goes for shine stall. If I see you shine stall and I know that you like to shine stall for more than half a second some of the time, I can just see the shine stall and then like dash dance around your double jump spacing and try to shine you out of it. So sometimes like the instant double jump is good. You just kind of want to see what the opponent does. If they
right.
throw you off stage and then instantly like do a forward tilt or forward smash or something like that, then the shine stall is really good because you can wait out the forward tilt and then double jump back on with an aerial like an up air and punish them for it. But if they just throw you off stage and wait, then jumping right away is just a good way of like getting height,
Mm,
and then having more mix-ups from there. Because
yeah.
in the best case scenario, you want to recover from a position where like side B on stage, side B shortened to ledge, and up B like horizontally above ledge, and up B like diagonally down to ledge. They're all options because that's where
Yeah.
Fox is hardest to edge guard, where he's like just a little bit above ledge, but far enough away that like you have to worry about
Right.
Firefox going just in a straight line, or Firefox going down to ledge, or side B and side B shorten, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we had Music King come to Denmark at one point because he's doing like Metafy stuff. And he was talking to, I can't remember if it was Mo or it was someone else about like Spaces has literally, he said Spaces has one spot where they can actually recover from. And it's basically what you mentioned there as well, where it's like it's slightly above the ledge, where up B gives you like 2 to 3 options, side B gives you 2 to 3 options. And if not doing that, then there's always a flow chart.
Yeah.
I think it's because he was basically like he was playing Sheik, and he was getting literally every single edge guard, and it's like, well, how do you beat this? And he kind of went through it. That sounds very familiar to me.
Yeah. You have to pick the right spot to start your recovery option from. One thing that you'll see me do when I'm respawning and you're like I have invincibility is I'll just respawn and I'll just dash dance like right on top of you just to see like are you shielding, are you jumping, and a lot
Mm,
of the time if you do anything that isn't like straight up run away from me, I'll get a small advantage because you're gonna go to the platform and commit to a shield or commit to a full hop that I can then shark you coming back down from. That's an option that I didn't mention specifically just now, but it's a really strong one that like you can also try out yourself when you
mhm.
come down like this. All right, I
Mm.
think that was the second game, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it was.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Then GG's.
Yes,
Um,
yes, yes.
uh, so I think what I will give you like as homework if you have time, I feel like doing it,
Yeah, for
is
sure.
since I wanted us to like talk about more like content stuff and not waste any time writing it down as like we play.
Hmm.
There are a few things that we talked about just now that we won't have time to like fully summarize and write down, but that's what I would want you to do is just like try to summarize the things we discussed during
Yeah,
like the last 20 minutes, half an hour, so that if any questions come up, you can already think about like what the question might be from you, what you understand, what you didn't understand. If maybe you understand it, but you don't quite know what the extent of it is, if this is like, a super important, huge thing, or if it's maybe like a specific thing you can try against some players.
yeah.
So, summarize what we discussed while playing in your own words, using your own understanding of it.
Hmm.
So we had Invincibility from Respawn, Recovery, avoiding imps, move selection, depending on percent, how to move regarding it, these kind of things, right? Great. Do you have any remaining questions, or is there anything that has come to mind that you already know you would like to talk about in a potential future lesson?
Mm, I think one thing that I've just been wondering about, which should be short, is specifically follow-ups on upthrow on FOD when the platforms are like varying heights. Can you
Mm-hmm.
always just full hop up air like you normally would on a side plat? Or like is there like specific Fox matchup, like specific Fox like mix-up trees that you should know for the different platforms?
Mm-hmm.
Because I've been like specifically unsure about that, and it's been hard to kind of find like examples of people doing it.
Yeah. Um, the that's a very good topic to talk about. Just one thing to let you know regarding that is that at low percent, pretty much any move that isn't grab can be slid off to some extent, which kind of complicates the whole situation by a lot because
Mm,
even up smash people can slide off on. If the platforms are so low that you could up smash the platform,
yeah, yeah.
they could just hold down, slide off the platform, and then grab you for it, which complicates things a lot. But it also simplifies them to an extent because it just means that a ton of moves that aren't grab or like a very strong move starting from a very specific percent where it can no longer be slid off on, just aren't really like relevant options against really good players. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, that's a very interesting topic because there still is a lot of nuance to it. And like you said, when it comes to like doing one up air to cover everything, when does that start working? That's interesting. Cool. Um, great. Okay, so yeah, thanks for doing the lesson with me. It was really fun.
Of course.
Hope you enjoyed as well. I'll upload it right away so you can rewatch it if you feel like it.
Hmm.
The way I usually do it is that I upload it in the new lesson uploads channel, and then I tag you when it's uploaded so that you'll get a notification for it. So yeah, great. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to just message me anytime, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
Yeah, sounds good.
Other than that, I hope you have a good rest of your evening, and I'll maybe talk to you sometime in the future.
Yeah, likewise, likewise.
Cool. Bye.
I see.